Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 15 Monday night. We normally do a Draftkings Showdown video here, but there are two games on Monday night. So I'm going to do a really quick overview of the two game slate involving the Browns Raiders and Minnesota against Chicago. And then we're going to do our normal focus on the Monday Night Football single game Draftkings Showdown game for NFL DFS. So it's just going to be a quick look. We've already broken down that it was supposed to be on Saturday. It got moved to Monday night. So now they made a millionaire maker. It's $1.5 million for the two game slate. It's a $1 million single game showdown. There are obviously showdowns for both of these games. Good luck to you in whatever contest you are going after. But as usual, this one's going to focus on the Monday Night Football Showdown, and I will give you a quick breakdown on the other. We're also going to do our underdog pick'em for the Monday night game slate. We'll look at all the targets. We'll look at the Fantasy Labs lineup builder and take a look at how we're going to build lineups for that showdown slate with the rules that I use. So everything normal except for the fact that everything is upside down because of all the COVIDity that's been going on this weekend in the NFL. Saturday game, Sunday games, Monday games, Tuesday games, and then a Thursday. It's off the rails at this point. Hopefully everything can get under control. So thank you guys for being here again. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Look out for the recap video. It's going to be on the second channel, Al Smizzle Games, on Monday afternoon, going over everything that happened this weekend. Leave me a reply down below. Let me know how you're feeling going into Christmas week. Let's go.
He's a legend.
Okay, so let's start with the pick'em on Underdog Fantasy. Now, there's not a lot on this pick'em right now because there were some other players put in health and safety protocols. Basically, we're going to get to this later, but the entire Bears defensive secondary is out. And Minnesota is offensively looking not as challenged as they were before. I'm going to take over here. I'm also going to take something that doesn't really correlate with it, but Dalvin Cook over 82.5 yards. Let's take Justin Fields over 185.5. And God, I don't trust Commit to get over 35. Let's just stick with those three. $50 to win that. Use promo code ALSMIZZLE. Use code ALSMIZZLE on your first deposit. Get something. I believe it's a $100 deposit match on first deposit. And let's go take a look at the Monday special. 1.5 million, $20 to enter. They have plenty of games on this slate if that's what you wanted to do. I'm not going to spend too much time here other than to talk about the guys that I think you're going to just jam into these lineups. There are 4 running backs basically on the slate, and they're all workhorses. Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and David Montgomery. I think that first and foremost, you're going to go after 1 here. I think you're going to go after 2 here, and then it's going to come down to if you want to play the third. Of the quarterbacks, the 4 that are out here, we have the extreme value in Nick Mullins with everybody else basically out. He is 4,900. Justin Fields, I believe, is the best quarterback for the money at 5,300 with his rushing upside. Gives you a little bit better floor than somebody like Derek Carr. And Kirk Cousins is going to be pricey, so I don't know that he's totally necessary. But if you're building multiple lineups, going with a Minnesota stack, and again, some of the rules we talk about on full slates aren't necessarily going to be in play here. Going to be playing Jefferson, probably going to be playing KJ Osborne as well when it comes out of Thielen's snap share that is now moving over to him. 16 targets the last 2 games. And then you're going to find somebody else to play. So this is going to be most people's cores is like a super stack with Minnesota using Josh Jacobs and then trying to figure out the rest in here. There's plenty of value on the slate. You have guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashard Higgins, Hunter Renfrow at 6,500 is also extremely, I don't know the word here, tasty. How do you want to put, there's nobody who's available to throw the ball to on Las Vegas. They have a few guys that they can go deep to, but nobody that can handle getting 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 targets because Waller's out and Hunter Renfro's there and they don't really have backs to dump it off to. So he's their everything, do everything guy. And if you wanted to jam him into this lineup and see if you could get there for 3,900, fine. You'd have to punt at flex. You'd have to punt at tight end. Defenses are going to be cheap on that slate and then go with one of the cheaper tight ends. But that's kind of where you're going to start on the 2 game slate. Moving over to Showdown now. which is what this video is supposed to be about. I'm trying to give you a little bit of everything, especially on a weird week like this. So I appreciate you guys being flexible with me over the weekend, considering how much effort we put into the videos throughout the week, and then the slate got completely flipped over for COVID reasons, and I have no way to record or re-record the Friday video. I scrapped the Saturday 5 under 5 video because two of the players that were on the 5 were moved off the slate, and two of the other players were clearly going to be above 5. There was no point in that video anymore. You can go back and watch it on the VOD on Twitch if that's what you want to do. Two guys I think are going to be the optimal captains on this slate. One, Justin Jefferson. We know what we're doing with him. Anytime that we have Justin Jefferson as our captain, we're going to include Kirk Cousins, because if Jefferson has that really big day, 8 catches, 122 touchdowns, that means that Kirk Cousins probably also had a pretty monstrous day himself. And the other way that I would go probably is going to be to have Dalvin Cook. I will play more than 2 captains. I typically will have between, 4 and 7 captains. Usually the guys that I project to have the seven players that project to have the highest ceiling on the slate necessary is a massively mispriced player, which doesn't normally happen on Showdown, where like somebody's like 2,000, but they're being thrust into a role where they're going to get like 10 targets. Like that would be the only time that I'm going to push somebody who's super cheap to fit other plays in there. And you have to be willing to lose when you play Showdown. Like you can't cover every single base, even if you're like me and play 150 lineups. So you have to focus around the things that you feel put you in the right side of the math. One of those things that we talk about all the time is building our captain group. Whether you're building with the lineup builder or you're building by hand, if you're going to have Kirk Cousins at captain, and looking at the 2 quarterbacks on this slate, Fields being a higher ceiling type quarterback because of what he brings to the table in terms of his rushing floor through attempts and yards, and his ceiling being able to run in touchdowns. Now, Kirk Cousins can add that. He has scored multiple rushing touchdowns in his career, but he's not really that type of guy who's going to run it all that much. He's more of a pocket plus quarterback who can score a rushing touchdown here or there, but it's definitely not something that's a part of his game. So if he's going to have a monster day, it's because he has targeted Justin Jefferson. He has targeted everybody else in his passing game. So you're going to make sure that you're going to have at least 2 of those guys. And we can take a look over at Thielen, listed as questionable for Monday's contest. This is brand new, so we'll see if he actually makes it. If he makes it, obviously that makes KJ Osborne way less of a value, as Thielen would be back in his normal situation. Taking a look at their targets, going over to NFL Savant. This is a free site, by the way. I use it because it's great for the visual behind me on the screen. It doesn't do anything different than ESPN or any other site. It's just, it looks really nice on these videos. Justin Jefferson leading the team in targets with 27.82. Absolute monster. Adam Thielen, when he's there, gets about a 22 to 23% of the target market share. This dips because of the games that he has missed. Tyler Conklin, aka the Gronklin, has done very well for himself this year, soaking up like 14 to 15% of the targets, and KJ Osborne has been that last guy in, and then Madison and Cook get their sub 10%. I'm not going to be using them in the Cousins, either of the running backs, Cook or Madison, in that market share. Obviously Madison on COVID-19. I'm just saying I don't use these running backs that have sub 10%, right? If Thielen is there, we will be using him. If not, here's the tip, right? So if Thielen's not playing, don't play Adam Thielen or put him in your Kirk Cousins groups if he's not activated. But if he is activated and is playing, you're going to probably use him in Showdown because it's single game Showdown and he's quite good. But again, if he's not active, don't play him. Using the rest of that group, KJ Osborne, obviously like him better at 5,800 if Thielen does not play. We have to monitor that as it goes along. Gronklin, Greg Joseph as well. The kicker correlates a lot better with the quarterback than people are willing to admit. If that team scores a lot of points, if they score 5 touchdowns, he's only going to have 5 points. But more often than not, they stall a few times, even on a big day, and that kicker might have 2 or 3 field goals along with 3 or 4 extra points, and all of a sudden, that really adds up in a Showdown slate because of how little scoring there actually is on a Showdown slate. And without Madison in here, maybe we get some snaps from Keenan Wangu. I mean, I don't know, right? Like Wayne Gallman, maybe it's 600. Monitor the situation, see who's active and inactive 90 minutes before the game. And if they're only going with like 3 running backs, it's going to make itself very clear who the secondary guy is. Both are extremely cheap. You could go ham if you want to. Obviously, I had to get the joke in there. Whatever. We're going to build that other group if we're going to use Kirk Cousins, and I'm probably not going to have more than like 5% Kirk Cousins across 150 lineups at captain, because that's the way that it goes, and that's going to be with every offensive player on Chicago. Now, if you're building Fields captain lineups, and when you're putting somebody in captain, I get asked this question a lot. Do you think such and such a player is a viable captain? Right? Is this quarterback a viable captain? Well, if that quarterback is a viable captain, how many fantasy points do you think that he's going to have that night? If Justin Fields is going to be a viable captain, he's got to have 25 to 35 fantasy points on DraftKings, right? And then 1.5x for the captain spot if he's going to be that captain. So if he does that, more often than not, he's going to be able to sustain multiple pass catchers that go along with him, like Jakeem Grant last game, Cole Bird, Cole Kmet, Jimmy Graham, whoever else that you can pile with them, as well as their kickers. So many red digits next to everybody's name this week. It just is what it is. If you think that David Montgomery is going to tear them up at home, we haven't really seen the Dave Montgomery that we saw at the end of last season, but it's very encouraging that his targets have gone way back up in the last 3 games with 19 targets. The last 3 games, that is the David Montgomery that we saw that was a league winner last year. Taking a look at the Bears target market shares, Darnell Mooney been leading the way. Cole Kmet, big down year for Allen Robinson at 15%. They were going to throw the ball less always coming into this year, and then I don't know, the beginning of the year, like Fields wasn't doing really well, and then obviously you guys know how I feel about Handsome Gase, their coach, not doing exceptionally well himself and not putting the team in the best positions to win. I think that they're going to be better moving forward as Fields progresses. But Allen Robinson, hopefully, if he stays, I hope things get better for him. If not, I hope he goes somewhere where he can really thrive on the back end of his career. Dave Montgomery, Marquise Goodwin, he's out. Damiere Byrd steps into that role, about 10% of the market share. And again, Montgomery really jumping up a little bit recently. So if we go over to the lineup builder over at Fantasy Labs, I already have my template loaded in. I've got my 5 rules that we kind of talked about there. I will allow for salary to be left on the table. I have a little bit of shuffle in there. I don't allow for a kicker or a defense to be the captain. If it's a night where the defense or the kicker ends up being the optimal captain, I think that's happened once this year, and it was like New England where they were the optimal captain. Too many people play the defense and the kicker at captain. Basically, they end up being the rake. Don't be the rake. Yeah, you might win that one time a year, and that's great if you do that, but the amount of times that you're flushing, it does not make sense to do that. So the field massively overweights kicker and defense at captain versus the amount of times that actually comes into win. Usually it's a wide receiver, then running back, and then possibly a quarterback, but very specifically which types of quarterbacks. You can figure out which ones they are. Here's the 5 rules that I standard go with, and then we build from there depending on the actual game and the script that we expect to happen. Pair your captain quarterback with at least 2 of his wide receivers, his pass catchers, and his kicker. Pair your captain quarterback with at least 1 offensive player from the opponent. Captain wide receivers have to be paired with their quarterback. Captain tight ends paired with exactly 1 of their quarterback, and limit to at most 1 defense and kicker from the same game. So I don't want multiple kickers and defenses to cap my upside. I want to capture as much of the PPR upside that exists on DraftKings as possible. And then we build that final player group using at least 1 player. I'll pick between 4 or 5 and about 7 or 8 players, somewhere in that range, that I believe are going to fall under 25%, and make sure that every lineup has at least 1 of the players on that list to give me a little bit of differentiation within my lineups, because there's always going to be a split when it comes to Showdown. Most often, right? Every once in a while you have a solo winner, but usually there's going to be a split pot at the end of the night. I would much rather, if I'm going to split the pot with people, split it with 5 to 10 or 15 people as opposed to splitting with 50 to 500. So when I win, I want to win the most that I can. So I'm going to force the lineup builder to jam in a little bit of, give up a couple of points of optimal PPR points to get a little bit of more differentiation, so that when I win, I maximize the amount that I can win. So thank you guys for watching. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.